listeners. Welcome to episode number 145 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is December 27th. This is the final episode of 2023, and I am proud to say I have not missed a week since starting this podcast in March of 2021. And it's because of you all, my wonderful listeners who keep coming back week after week. I learned this week from Spotify in my year-end stats that this podcast is still in the top 5% of all podcasts on Spotify. So that is very exciting news for me. It means I'm doing something right. So thank you very much for your loyalty and interest in this podcast about the eBay lifestyle and the eBay reselling community. My guests today are Colleen and Tom in Minnesota, and I don't have any announcements this week since we are in holiday mode, so we will jump right in.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back. I have another dynamic duo with us today, Colleen and Tom. So tell us where you guys are located.
Yeah, we're from Grand Rapids, Minnesota. So northern Minnesota, we're about 3 hours from the Canadian border.
Oh, okay.
And about an hour and a half west of Duluth. So we're pretty much in the North Woods, lots of trees and lakes.
And
pretty
snow
rural.
And freezing weather.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I asked Colleen to come on, and she said, well, I will if I can have her son be part of it. So tell us how y'all work this out together.
Yeah. So, my mom was very excited, obviously, when you asked her to be on. So that was cool. And she's like, there's this podcast. I would like you to join me if she will allow it. And she asked, and sure enough, you were generous enough to let me join. But yeah, she was excited because I grew up with eBay. She's been doing eBay for as long as I've been alive. And so I've kind of started to get into it now for the last probably 6 years or so, but she's been doing it for 20 plus years. And me growing up and watching, what she sells, getting annoyed by listening to podcasts as a kid and other things, being like, why are we driving to this city today or that city the next
you
weekend?
Sound like my kids.
Yeah.
He's an eBay baby, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so what year were you born, Tom?
1999. So I'm 24.
Okay. So my kids were born in, I have to think a second, 94 and 96.
Yeah,
So
pretty close.
You're right in the middle of all that. Mom, don't sell my stuff while I'm at school generation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Colleen, so you want to tell us how you got started?
Yeah, actually, it was probably closer to like 18 years ago. My sister started selling, and she was just selling kids' clothes, and she had a friend that showed her. And so I'm like, well, I'd like to get involved. And I just started selling some random things, a cowboy hat, I don't even know what it was. But pretty soon I realized, just going around to the garage sales, that for some reason back in the early thousands, old motorcycle helmets were selling, and I could pick them up at pretty much any garage sale in northern Minnesota for about 50 cents to $2.
Wow.
And it didn't matter the size, the condition, any of that. I would pick them up, and I'd throw the kids in the van, and we'd go drive maybe a $200 or 200-mile radius and pick up as many as we could find. And almost every single time I would ship them to Malaysia.
Really?
Lots and lots of scooters, and they wanted them there. And pretty soon we figured out that, if they were metal flake, they were worth more. And we kind of started to develop a little bit of a niche there. And my boys started realizing that they could capitalize on that as well.
Okay.
So it was kind of fun to figure out that was one particular good niche to get into. In fact, we found a couple of years into that, I came across one helmet. I paid $1 for it, I put it on auction because everything was on auction at the time. And $9.99, always started at $9.99. And I watched it go. It was called a Bell Magnum helmet. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
Do they make bicycle helmets too?
Well, yeah, it's the Bell company, but they made
Bell,
motorcycle
yes.
helmets. And so this
Yeah.
was from the 1980s. I had no idea what I had. And I watched it, and with 1 minute left, it was at $300, and I was just ecstatic. It was the highest sale I'd ever had. And in the last 3 seconds, it jumped to $1,000. And I flipped out. I was flabbergasted, and I thought, I remember walking out onto the deck and looking at my husband and say, "You are not going to believe I just sold that helmet for $1,000." And that kind of just got me super excited about the whole.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
Wait, how much did you pay for it?
$1. $1. So yeah, that was really one of the cool things.
Do
And
you remember that, Tom?
I do remember. I don't remember the conversation with my father, but I do remember the Bell Magnum. She actually has found 2 of them, but I remember the second one better because my brother found it, and he was probably 8, and he wanted all the profit from it. And my mom was like, no, that's not.
What's an 8-year-old have to pay for? No, you get $10. I'm going to pay the mortgage with the rest of it.
in my defense, I did give him $100. He paid $10 for the helmet. But at that time, we were using the eBay money to pay for family vacations. And so I said, Max, come on, we've got to work this out. So I gave him $100, and then we spent $500 on a family vacation.
Oh, and you raised him. So, I mean, there's plenty.
Yeah.
He's gotten plenty of kickback.
How many kids do you have all together?
I have 3 boys.
Oh my, okay.
Yeah, so a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old, and then Tommy, who's 24.
A lot of testosterone in that house.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So when did you start getting involved with the picking, Tom?
Well, I mean, we would always kind of, because she's a teacher and she stays home in the summers, and we would always be watched by her. She was there obviously watching us. We weren't going to a babysitter or anything. So she wanted to, go down to the cities or whatever, the Twin Cities, about 3 hours south of us, and go picking. And so we would be kind of forced into tagging along in a way.
But I always got a hotel room with a swimming pool, took him out to dinner. We made it a trip.
Yep.
So he wasn't, forced.
It was an outing. Yeah.
We'll
get ice cream and do all these things, but you guys got to come with me.
Yeah, exactly. And so it started when I was really young. I mean, I can remember going down, and I'd always want to play on her phone as I was going, and we'd get burnt out. Us boys, we'd get burnt out after 20 garage sales, and it's like, no, I don't want to go in anymore.
And I'd say, just come on, we're going to go 5 more, and then we'll go to the pool.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I've been doing it for a really long time, but I never did any of the listing or selling myself. It would I'd go there and look for stuff for me, and I found some cool things that I wanted as I was growing up. And then when I was probably 17, because I would have been leaving high school, going into my freshman year of college. She was telling me, she's like, hey, you know what? You should consider doing eBay as you're going to college, because it's a great way to make money, and you can probably make more than you would at a part-time job doing, bagging groceries or anything like that. And so I'm like, well, that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to learn. I'd watched her, and she's got the room full of stuff, and there's so much knowledge that she has acquired over that time. And so I was like, I was kind of on the fence, and we went to a garage sale, and there was a brand new Yeti ice cooler there, just like a shoulder strap one, and they wanted $70 for it, and I had $70 for this garage sale trip. And my mom was like, look, you can buy this right now for $70, and you could probably flip it by the end of the day. And so I spent all my money at the first garage sale, $70, and I had it sold later that day for, I want to say, around $260. And I was like, holy moly, I just turned 70 into 260, and literally it took probably 45 minutes. And from then on, I was like, okay, I gotta take this seriously, because I can make some pretty sweet cash, especially for college.
I love your Midwestern sayings. Holy moly.
Yeah.
So where did you go to college?
I went to North Dakota State University. I
Okay.
did two years there, and then I did 2 years at a community college here in Grand Rapids. So
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
So that was in Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh
Sorry.
gosh. That's really
Cold and windy.
Hey, it's a
it's like the
wonderful
movie, right?
It's a wonderful city. You know, I think it's
Yeah.
the number one city for young adults to move to right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a connection to Minnesota. I don't know if you ever heard me talk about when my parents were young married. My mother was from Florida. So my dad got a job in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They lived in a suburb called Bloomington.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where the
that's where
airport
my-
is.
That's where my brother was born. But they didn't live there long because my mother thought it was hell on earth being from Florida. Like, I could never get warm there. And the blizzard would come and the house would creak and it was scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Too
So
funny.
they moved back down south to Atlanta and everything was better. But I heard those stories my whole life of how, oh, it was so horrible in Minnesota. Well, she just didn't know how to live there, you know?
Well, I think the way that you live here is what most people do is they at least spend 1 or 2 weeks in Florida. That's huge. As a teacher, I have students and it's like, oh, they're in Florida this week. They're in Florida this. So yeah.
So you have to have that to survive.
Yeah. A little reprieve for sure.
Yeah. Because snow's on the ground from like what, September to May?
You know, this year might be different, but I mean, we just got snow last night, and it's warm. It'll probably melt today. We haven't had snow yet, so I mean the lakes aren't froze over or anything like that.
Really?
Yeah,
Global
it is.
warming in Minnesota.
It is a
Yeah.
little bit of a different winter so far, but
Okay,
yeah,
well maybe
usually-
that's not a bad thing.
No, usually it's June January until June when the snow is for sure on the ground. It takes
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I commend you for that. But you know, if you've been there your whole life, you don't know any different.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's fun things to do in the winter too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Like us Southerners, we're like, we want to go play in the snow, but there isn't
Yeah.
any, you know, or
Yep.
we have it for 2 hours and then it's gone. So, I
Yeah.
feel that I've got some snow related things on my bucket list that I'm going to do, but I have to do it with somebody who knows how to be in cold weather. 'Cause
Yeah. You've got a plan
like,
for
tell
sure.
me what to wear, how many layers, and what do I do? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so back to your Yeti cooler. You didn't mind spending all your money at the first garage sale.
No, well, I mean, I was definitely skeptical. You know, the $70 when I was 17, heck, that's almost 2 tanks of gas for me. So that was a lot of money. And so, but I trusted her. She'd been doing it for a long time. And yeah, sure enough, it flipped really quickly. And that was that. And nowadays I don't buy things as much. I focus much more on clothing. That's kind of
Really?
become a niche. Yeah. I love selling clothing. In college, the reason I really got into it is because it packs away so small. So I had 500 items below my bed in my apartment building, and I could run a pretty decent sized store right out of the underneath my bed.
That is so smart.
Yeah, I was able to, I mean, it was a
And
little-
he graduated debt free.
thanks to help from my parents a little bit, and then obviously flipping stuff on eBay. Yeah, it was a much easier way, in my opinion, than working a couple part-time jobs, bagging groceries or fast food or anything like that.
Well, because you have the entrepreneurial mindset, because
Yeah.
you know that it works. Just a lot of people don't think that way, and they're like, I'm just going to go to my job and do my thing and get my paycheck. And it doesn't have to be an either or. There's plenty of people that do both things, but
Yeah.
you have faith in the system because you've seen it work your whole life. And newer people don't have the patience. Oh, I bought this great thing 3 days ago. It hasn't sold yet. And you just got to keep feeding the pipeline, and eventually it'll take on momentum.
Oh yeah.
And it really is such a weird niche job to do. Most people don't understand. I think eBay is pretty lonely, actually. I kind of feel that. And that's why it's been really nice to see your Facebook page and to be able to post on there, because there are very few people around me here that have any idea what I do. They don't really want to listen to it. You know,
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh,
exactly.
you sold some weird pair of underwear, whatever."
Yeah, I feel that.
So it's been nice to have a community to say, hey, and have them celebrate your wins with you, or be able to celebrate other people's wins with them.
Well, and even if you meet other resellers out in the world, not all of them are friendly and forthcoming. Um, a lot of them are threatened by
Oh
other
gosh, yes.
resellers, and I think there's just way too much stuff out there to worry about what you're not getting, because you don't know who's been there before you, what they know, what they want to deal with. And like at estate sales, they put new stuff out all the time as things sell, they're restaging it. So I feel like everything's just like low hanging fruit, just there for the picking.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think over the years, I've learned that I can walk into a thrift store and kind of peruse the area, and I can find something in almost every section.
Mhm.
You know, now I'm kind of diversified enough that I don't have to rely solely on clothes or solely on, I mean, I love the cosmetics and the perfumes. I mean, that's a new thing in the last couple of years. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea I could flip this. So
Yeah.
that's been fun.
Oh, so back to you, Tom. What kind of clothing do you sell?
It really, it depends. I I'll sell almost anything that I can make $20 to $30 on. So,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna buy a Nike t-shirt or anything like that, but there are so many brands out there that you can buy for $5 at a thrift store and flip for 45 in no time. And so it's really just going through and finding those. I mean, it's
Well, it's your Lulu and your,
yeah, I mean, Lululemon is an easy one. But there's many brands. Like I just found a pair of Filson pants the other day. I don't find
Oh, lucky you. I never find that.
yeah, that's a
I
great
don't
one.
find it all the time, but I mean, that's just like automatic, and there's so many brands like that many of them I had never even heard of, but I see the tag, I see made in the USA or something like that.
That's a big indicator. Made in the USA, I think when you find that on a tag, it definitely commands a high resale.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I find things like that, and I'll just do a quick little search on eBay and see what it's worth. And a lot of the things that I find I won't find again for 6 months or whatever, that brand, but as soon as I see it, I know, hey, I sold that for 40-50 bucks profit 6 months ago, so I got to pick that brand up.
So
But
you don't necessarily focus on cold weather clothing because of your location. You just anything.
I'll sell anything clothing wise. I sell a lot of golf polos. There's I enjoy fashion, so I've kind of kept on the forefront, I guess, of like trends. And so like a brand that's within the last 10 years that's come out, it's called Rhoback, RHOBACK.
Yes, yes. And they
And
have fun prints and like
Yeah.
dogs
yeah,
and all
and
kind of
it's
fun, whimsical stuff. Mhm.
exactly, and it's insane how fast those sell. I found 6 of them in a row at a thrift store. It was just like boom, boom, boom. I couldn't believe it. It was
Somebody cleaned out their closet or didn't like it.
yeah, and they were all 3XL too, and so they were huge.
Oh,
And
nice.
it was an expensive thrift store. They wanted $13 a piece for them, but I think I sold them all for 70 to upwards of $150 for some of the rare prints. But just things like that where I haven't found it since, but it was like, a little bit of a vein of gold there. To put
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Now, do you work a regular job too?
Yeah, so I'm a civil engineer by trade. Been doing it for 2 years now, full time. And it takes a lot of time. I'm also married with a 1-year-old,
Oh
so
gosh.
a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It's busy, so I don't get the same amount of time as I did in college to really thrift. I've spent a lot more time actually buying off of eBay and flipping on eBay. So
Well, but you're more knowledgeable, and that was
yeah,
your your learning curve. So you can do it faster now because you know what you've been selling, and then you know what kinds of things to look for. So
Yeah.
flipping it from eBay,
Yep.
that's a great strategy if you
Yeah.
are short on time.
Yeah. I've only been doing it for about a year now, and it's hard to find good deals a lot of times, but I like to buy Lululemon in bulk off of eBay and then flip it individually.
Mhm.
And it's pretty crazy the profits you can make just doing that. Every once in a while I have gotten burned. So I have, broke even or even lost a couple bucks on a couple things. But for the most part, it's pretty slick way when I'm short on time.
Well, and that's a calculated risk. You're not everything in that lot's going to be a win, but if enough things are to where you walk away with profit, then it's worth it.
Yep. Absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes the things that aren't going to flip, I'll just keep myself or give
There
to
you
my
go.
wife or something, give it away.
Yeah,
People like nice clothes, that's for sure.
that's true. And I feel like eBay's kind of recession proof because I'm not paying retail for this. I'm going to go to eBay and pay the secondhand price, but you can still find great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first place I look when I want to buy something for myself is, supporting the eBay community. And
Absolutely.
you can find those deals, and there's a segment of the population that will never buy anything used.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. They're not our customer.
No, they aren't.
No, in fact, I'd love to go to their garage sale.
I know, right? So, Colleen, do you have some sales that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that really got me to be involved in eBay was back in about 2007. My sister said to me, she goes, Colleen, she goes, there's something really weird going on eBay. She said, there's these people and they're listing sweaters, but they're writing ugly in the title and they're going. And at the time, nobody knew what was going on here in the in the East Coast and the West Coast had started having ugly Christmas sweater parties, and they were having them in Europe, in London, and in Paris. And so I Googled, I'm like, ugly sweater. And then it came out that they were throwing these festive ugly Christmas sweater parties. So it was during a blizzard. I'll never forget it. My friend and I said, we've got to get to the thrift store because I know where these are and they're cheap. And so we went to every thrift store in town. And
did you put on your cross country skis?
No, but I think my friend had to push the car out of the driveway, literally.
Oh my gosh.
But we went there during the blizzard, and I remember I had probably 16 or 17. And at the time, it didn't matter if they were sweatshirts, they were Nutcracker brand, they were gaudy and glitzy and ugly. And I bought every one. And I remember the store clerk looked at me and was like, what are you going to do with these? And I was kind of dumbfounded. I thought, I didn't know what to say. And I just said, I just love Christmas sweaters. And so I took them home and started listing them. And oh my goodness, they flew out of my store. I mean, it was all auction. Some of them would go for 20, 30. Some of them would go for over 100. People asked me to expedite them to Europe. It was, they would have there'd be like, my party is on Friday. Can you overnight this? So in the end, after Christmas, I was like, oh my goodness, I have enough money to take my family on a vacation. And so that was the very first time I ever took my family, and we went to Florida for the first time. It was just bizarre that all of a sudden this money had all piled up from ugly Christmas sweaters, but it was so cool because we got in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That was back when.
Ironic end to that story is you sold all these sweaters and then it paid for a trip to Florida where you don't need a sweater.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that was a great run. When I was listing them, I remember there were maybe 200 or 300 listed, 200 or 300 ugly Christmas sweaters. So now I think there's 44,000. And that run lasted for about 2 or 3 years where I would just pick them up. And then it kind of faded out. And I know, I think I just looked at your posted sales, and didn't you just sell one not too long ago?
I've got some in there. I get them all year when I can get them cheap, for $1 or whatever. But
Yeah.
I remember when that craze started, and there's like the product life cycle. So it's like introductory, where there's not a whole lot of people doing it yet.
Yep. Yep.
It gets into growth, and then maturity, and then decline. So
Yeah.
what happened was, like, Walmart and Target, they have all these cheap, crappy ones with just like, looks like a 3-year-old just glued stuff on a sweater. It doesn't. And the older ones, from the 90s and the 80s, with all the beading and the sequins, and you can tell there's more work involved in making them. That's what I look for. I don't just pick up any ugly sweater. It's got to be like those brands, Design Options and Barrick, and you mentioned
Maria Christina too.
Yes,
that
yes.
one.
Or just brands I have one that's named Lisa. I don't even know what that is, but it's got all the stuff on it, the vests, the sweaters, and so I just pick them up all year, and knowing I'm not going to sell them for what they went for back in the day, but if they're $1 in the summer, pick them up and sell them for 20 to 30, and that's a good November, December product to have in your store.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a fun thing. And I think I'm always kind of looking out to see if there's anything like that again, another little wave that I could ride. Haven't found another one like that, quite like that.
Well, I know the sweatshirts that we all made in the 90s with, you painted them, and you did the iron-on transfers, and with the puffy paint. Supposedly those are coming back now, the older ones.
Okay, I hadn't heard that.
Did you ever get into that craft?
No, I'm so far from crafty.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That was what we did on the weekends before the internet, is we made these horrible, atrocious sweatshirts with puffy paint from Michaels.
Yep.
Well, funny side story. A lot of those sweaters, I actually had to end up modeling for her. So she would take pictures of me or my father wearing.
Oh no!
And so
did she cut your head off?
I was like the 12-year-old model. Obviously, my face wasn't in it or anything, but
it was perfect.
Yeah, it was.
And did you get paid for that?
I didn't.
I took him on a lot of trips.
Yeah, and help.
You drove him to his practices, and
yeah.
Well, and having 3 boys, I bet you sold a lot of their outgrown clothes and shoes between the ages of 10 and 14, where they're growing so fast.
They didn't make it. Those clothes didn't
they got worn out.
Yeah. And probably because I bought them secondhand. And so they had but so by the time my boys were done with it, we just threw them in the garbage.
So that last kid, he just got it when it was already trashed.
Yeah.
Or unless they broken in.
Yes.
So where are you in the hierarchy, Tom?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. So you got everything new as it was going to be.
Even secondhand new.
It was it was new, but used, but it was new to you.
Yep, exactly.
That's funny.
And that's how my boys have just grown up. I mean, even, as I would go and I did video games, I'd pick up Super Nintendos, Sega Genesis. They would get to play them. I'd have them. They would be my testers. They'd test them out.
Get them for a week. That was all we'd have it for. So I remember one time my brother Max and we played Super Bomberman. It was a Super Nintendo game, but we fell in love with it, and so we ended up hiding it in the couch cushions. So
that was smart.
She couldn't sell it, and then every time she'd get a Super Nintendo, we'd have Super Bomberman hidden in the couch cushions, and we could pull it out and play it again.
So you played it like when she went to the store and stuff?
Oh no, just we'd have to test it, and so
okay.
She'd come home, she'd be like, "All right, boys, I got a Super Nintendo. Go, let me know if it works." And so we'd go plug it in and play it.
Oh yeah, they lived it. They lived in the video games of the 90s. Even when they were growing up in the 2000s. But they know vintage for sure.
That's smart. We had, y'all probably had it too. I think it was GameStop or something where you rented. I think even Blockbuster, you could rent video games. So that's what I did with my kids, because I'm not paying $100 for a video game. We'll just go rent it for the weekend. And, that was the thing. And I'm sure they were playing lots of games that they shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, see,
Hey,
we didn't do any of the new video game consoles. All my friends had the Xbox or the PlayStation, and I was playing either the original Nintendo or the Super Nintendo, just trying to get it tested for her. So
Hey, it saved us money.
It did save money.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great strategy. Good for you. So do you remember what those games sold for? Did you have any like mind-blowing sales?
I did. I sold a rare one called Earthbound. Gosh, it's probably been over 12 years ago. And I had no idea it was rare, which was I should have done more research, but back then I just was putting it up, and I think it ended up selling for like $180. And that was an Atari game, if I'm not mistaken. No, maybe it was SNES. I'm not sure.
You also sold that Yoshi game.
Oh yeah, I did. One of my coolest finds was I went to, in the middle of the woods in northern Minnesota, there was so we have a garage sale that's kind of famous called the Highway 38 garage sales, and it's 38 miles of garage sales, and it happens every September, and people do come from other states to come to these sales. But in the beginning, when they started having the sale, there was a convenience store, kind of weird store in a little tiny town that has about 25 people.
Oh gosh.
And it had closed down in the 80s. And they opened it up for this garage sale, and it was everything that was still pristine from the 1980s. It was t-shirts, and I ended up buying a bunch of these video games that were little tiny ones for like one of the very first handheld games. I'm not even sure.
Game Boy Color or something.
Something like that. But each one of those games that I bought, and I probably bought 10 or 12, went for over $100. And it was just one of those crazy things. And I found vintage t-shirts. My husband wore the vintage t-shirts for a long time, but that was really fun. So
you're like, you can't wear that. It's for sale. What are you doing?
We do that all the time. Yep.
Yeah, I know. And as soon I do that with my inventory too, like, oh, this will fit me, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it up for sale, and then I'll just enjoy it until it sells. And every single thing I choose, it sells pretty fast. Like, oh, I was gonna wear that to such and such. Oh well, I'll just find another one.
And I think that's kind of the mentality, is like, yep, we'll just keep rolling. You don't feel an attachment to things so much.
Right.
So
okay. Let's hear some more sales, because I see you posting a lot.
Oh gosh, this summer we had a really fun sale that I went to with Tommy's wife. And so we went to the sale, and it was a community kind of sale. And we opened the door. It was in a pole barn kind of area. And they had about 60 pairs of brand new Red Wing shoes and boots. And the sign said $50 per pair. And I know Red Wing, Minnesota is not too far from here. And I know the quality of those boots. And so I thought, oh my goodness, what do I do? Do I buy 60 pairs at $50 a pair? And I was a little bit like, so I called Tommy, who was at work, and he's like, buy them all, Mom, buy them all.
Oh gosh.
And I just thought, I don't know what to do. In the end, they were brand new, but they were factory seconds that had been donated to this community center. And so we ended up purchasing 14 pairs of these Red Wing boots that were brand new.
It's all they allowed us to buy. So they
put a limit on you. Okay.
Yeah.
And because they said, what are you going to do with all these boots? And I said, well, I'm a reseller. And they said, okay, well, in the interest of trying to make sure that the community gets all these boots, we're going to limit you. And I said, that's fine. So we ended up with 14 pairs at $50 a pair. I think we recouped Tommy and I then decided to split them, because he was kind of being my, helpline there.
Phone a friend.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I say, you don't have a lot of people that you can talk to eBay about. So it was so nice to be able to phone him. So we split it and $350 a piece, and we made that back within the sale of our first two pairs.
I think.
Oh gosh.
Well, we found found 3 pairs of a Japanese exclusive, really rare boot, and I think we sold the first pair for $440, the second pair for $460, and the last pair for $500. And they all it was just like bang, 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 sold right away.
I love that.
We still have some that we're selling. I mean, we just sold a pair for $400.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, that brings us to a whole nother category of your podcast, and that's the scam.
Okay.
We're involved in a scam currently regarding these boots. a pair sold for $400. I shipped them to Delaware. The person paid immediately. Didn't pick them up. They tried to deliver them to wherever he was supposed to get them. Didn't, emailed me, can't pick them up. And I said, well, go to the post office. It says they're there. Had them for a couple of weeks. It went to the post office. He picked them up. He had them for a couple of weeks and then emails me back and says, yeah, they don't fit. I want to return them. And so it was not as described. So eBay immediately refunded the $400 plus the shipping.
Ouch.
Yeah. So then he said that he was going to ship them back. So I get notification on my phone that says the boots were shipped back to my house, and I get home and there's no boots. And I'm like, what? So thankfully, northern Minnesota, I happened to have gone to high school with my postal deliverer. So I called her, up and I said, Tara, did you happen to drop off any packages at my house? And she said, no. And I said, well, tracking showing that it was delivered to my house. So she did a little research for me, and she's like, no, she said there was a package, but it was delivered to a law office in town. So I contacted the law office, and what had been delivered to them with my tracking number that he was supposed to send the boots back to, he sent a weird little envelope all taped up to this law office with my tracking number. And inside was a strange little patch with an Indian head with a headdress on it. No other information, but because the eBay got wind that the tracking was delivered to our town, it made me give the money back.
So he just sent something so there would be a package with tracking.
Yep.
What a jerk.
Yeah. And so I have been on the phone with eBay, and I've been reassured now that I've proven that he sent not what was supposed to be delivered, that they said that on Monday I'm supposed to have my money refunded. So I'm crossing my fingers that it'll all go through. But boy, I haven't had any scams in the 18 years. This is kind of the big first one.
Did you look at his account and see if it was new or if he leaves bad feedback or anything like that?
I didn't pay attention to it because it was shipped to Delaware prior to.
Well, I mean, like after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, yeah. I've looked now. He's based in Croatia, which was a red flag. The package that he was shipped was shipped to Delaware, but the tracking number to have the boots returned came from Sarasota, Florida. So it just kind of all worked out that this was just a guy taking me for a ride. So.
Wow. Because I was going to say, did it go to a freight forwarder and it could have gotten messed up there? Because I know there are some in Delaware. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
So for the listeners, it's a business that purchases things and then forwards them on to usually foreign countries. So they're usually located on the coasts, west and east coasts. Yeah.
That's more than likely what happened. And I think eBay has a policy that if it goes to a freight forwarder that they won't honor a return. I believe it's something like that.
Well, I mean, most of them are legit. They're totally fine.
Yeah. I mean,
I've never had a problem, but sometimes, this sounds like a very isolated incident, especially for you after 18 years of not being involved. And this is kind of crap you hear online. Just, you don't hear about the thousands and thousands of sales that go perfectly, the happy customers. This is what somebody's going to make a video about, put on YouTube about eBay sucks and don't do it, and I got scammed. And it's just really a rare occurrence.
Yeah, it is. And again, that's part of what makes your podcast so nice is it's typically all positive. You don't have a lot of the complaining or things that you hear on other podcasts.
Yeah, like there's no crying in baseball. There's no whining and griping in eBay.
Absolutely. Just be thankful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has challenges, I guess, things they run into, but there's usually a solution for every problem. And that's where people get tripped up, is like they just stay in that angry stage of I got scammed. And sometimes you can work it out. You just have to go to the right people, go to eBay for Business on Facebook. And usually they have your back. I mean, there's times when they don't, but usually they do. So this $400, you're looking for that to be returned, like credited next week, or what's
Yeah,
happening?
they said it was supposed to show up on Monday, and they have been really good. I haven't done the Facebook eBay connection, but I've just called them, and
Yeah.
they've been really easy to contact, and they typically call back within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's been really nice.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because during COVID, it just all fell apart with getting help from eBay, because their phone lines weren't really working, and that's when eBay for Business really took off on Facebook to help people. And I do like eBay for Business better because you have the record of that chat exchange. When you're talking back and forth, you can save that, screenshot it, whatever. And sometimes when you're on the phone, you might be told something, but you don't have any proof of what you were told. So
Sure.
unless you're recording it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm so new to Facebook. Like I
oh,
said,
really? Okay.
I don't know much about it, so it's just been easier to use the eBay site for me. But
Well, you do pretty well posting your sales. So
well, and that's all new. You're the very first thing I've ever posted to on Facebook.
oh, good. I'm glad I was your inaugural Facebook group.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Are you a Facebooker, Tom?
No, I don't do social media.
Yeah, you're like my son. He just
Yeah,
is
no.
like, I don't know. He goes, yeah, I don't do Facebook. I don't do any of that, because I mean, like, what if you run into somebody at the store? You're not gonna have anything to talk about because you already know everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just not my thing. I try to stay out of the loop a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of a time suck anyway. So I'm really just on there for my business most of the time.
Yeah.
But because my audience is mostly like your mom's age, and
Yeah.
they're just not on like Instagram and all these other things, TikTok, for what I have,
Yeah.
they're not there. So, it's like Facebook is a dinosaur. The younger ones don't really like it anymore. It's all those old
Well,
people.
and I listen to podcasts all the time. Podcasts are my thing, and so she obviously found you and then told me, and so like I listen to your podcast and I enjoy that. But yeah,
Oh, great. Thank you.
she does the Facebook. You won't catch me on there, unfortunately, but
Well, she could post your sales for you.
hey, there we go.
This
Yeah,
isn't mine. This is what my wonderful, brilliant son did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You have any more stories you want to tell?
Oh, there's so many stories. It's
Well, let's keep rolling. That's what my
mean,
audience loves, are the stories.
Yeah, we got 20 years of stories, unfortunately. So we could do this forever, but yeah, one that comes to my mind right now, I guess, is it wasn't with my mom, but a lot of times whenever obviously growing up, we would go on these trips, and you'd try to pay for your trip as you do eBay. And so last year, my wife and I took off. We were going to a wedding in Montana. It was about a 15-hour drive one way. And so the goal was, all right, we're going to pay for this trip out of eBay and see if we can do it. I don't think I've ever not done it. It's usually pretty successful. And so we took off and headed across, and we got to Bozeman, Montana, and it was right around the 4th of July, and every single thrift store we went to was shut down. And they were closed for 4th of July, and I could not believe it. I was so disappointed. And my wife's like, "It's okay. Like let's just go home. It'll be fine. We're on our way back." And I'm like, "Okay, there's one more." It says on Google Maps. We just got to stop at this last one right here. Okay, like if it's closed, I promise I'll be done. And so we pull up, and there's a van parked outside of it that is just stuffed to the brim with junk. And I'm like, "Oh, this is a good sign. Hey, here
Perfect.
we go." Sure enough, that door was open, and I'm a little bit of a neat and tidy guy. I like thrift stores. I'll pay a higher price if the thrift store is well organized or whatever. But at this point, I was so desperate. I'm like, it didn't matter to me. I walk in, and there is just a pile of junk right by the front door, and it's all clothing. And it's this lady in there that was running an eBay store, but she does a thrift store as well. And she's like, "Anything you want, $2 a piece." And we spent probably two hours there or so just digging through this pile of stuff. And we ended up walking out. We spent $90. And it was an insane amount of stuff. I remember one thing that I'd found in there was a pair of LL Bean thick wool pants, brand new with tags, from 1989. And I sold them like 2 days later for $175, full asking price.
Good for you.
Well, there's our gas money for the trip, basically, and yeah, the price of admission at the thrift store. And then I had 40 other items at $2 a piece that I was able to flip. And I still have a couple things from a year and a half ago now that haven't sold, but the vast majority of it sold right away. And when you get it for that cheap, you can take best offers that are maybe a little bit lower than what you want to. But
So that was before the baby came. So
that was
your wife, and you're like, we're just going to be here until we're done.
Yeah, exactly. I think that probably had a little bit of an influence on why she wanted to get going so fast, but she actually loved digging through that store too.
Oh,
So
I bet.
it's
Yeah,
kind of
that's what
funny.
I like. I look at estatesales.net every week, and there was one on there this week that had almost 500 pictures.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. But it was all junk. It was like a lot of dishes, and they had like all these individual pictures. And, I like the pictures of, the garage, and there's all these boxes, and you don't really know what's in there. You're zooming in, like trying to see what is in there. And it's like, no, this is good. It's a treasure hunt. I want to go dig through that and see if they didn't have time to take everything out of the boxes and, showcase it, then that's what I want. I want the stuff that they glaze over, like,
Oh yeah, the stuff under the tables.
yeah. And like, the kitchen's always got the, expensive knife set and the dishes and the overpriced Pyrex stuff. And, I want like, what's under that table? What's behind curtain number 2?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it pays to dig around, that's for sure. I know this year I went to an estate sale, and again, it was a garage full of junk, but I started digging under the tables, and again, I never would have sold plush if I hadn't learned that from you guys on your site. But I pulled out a 1963 talking Leo the lion plush toy. I'm not sure.
Like a yellow lion, and he's got like a really messy mane.
But he was talking. He had a pull string.
Yes, and he's like worth $300 or something.
Well, I think I probably made about 80 on him, but
okay.
But it was just fun to find something that I was like, my gosh, this is 1963. I wasn't even born then. This is awesome. And it still worked. And the buyer was super happy to find it. But yeah, digging under those tables, you never know what you're going to find. Yeah, that's cool. And I love your BOLO book. My son got me one for Christmas last year, and I've got it on my list for this year as well. So,
oh, good.
So yeah.
Is that a Bose radio behind you?
No,
it's not.
It's just
a
old cheap one.
Yeah.
I always look in the background. What's behind there?
Yep.
I don't think you can turn it off. Like even when you go to other people's houses and you're like, oh, there's that cross stitch thing that sells for $200. I'll give you $20 for that.
Oh yeah, no. It's really bad for me because everybody I walk by or anybody I see, I'm always looking at what they're wearing and trying to figure it out. And it's crazy. I don't know. I enjoy doing it too, but I'm sure people feel judged or like.
Well, I did the same thing. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I saw this man. He must have been like 100, but he had on a Monster Energy hat, and those Monster items are only sold at their events. Like you can't buy them in stores or on the website. You have to go to an event. That's why they sell for so much. And if he hadn't have been that age, I didn't want to bother him. I would have been like, hey, I'll give you $20 for your hat. Knowing I could sell it for over 100.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not above anything. I would say that, if they have on a master's hat or, something you recognize that is worth a lot of money. Hey, I'll give you $20 for that. And the worst thing they can do is say no.
Yep.
Don't ask. The answer is always no.
Wow. I've never thought to do that before.
Well, you got to get brave and be kind of
yeah.
But you never know. Somebody could need the $20 right then. So
yeah,
always have a little cash on you.
For sure.
Okay. Well, we're almost to the end. Did you guys want to answer one of those questions at the end?
Sure.
Okay. So which question would you like to answer to your personal life?
Oh gosh, Well, the problem is all the books that I read come from Goodwill, so none of them are like new.
Who
new
cares?
sellers.
It's the same words.
Well, okay, so I have to look at this one. This one is one of my favorites. It's called Rediscovering Travel, A Guide for the Globally Curious by
Oh,
Seth Kugel.
nice.
And so, like I had mentioned before, we pretty much use our eBay money to travel. And so this book kind of talks about getting off the grid, going into the off the beaten path places, and how do you make a vacation, different than a cookie cutter. I'm going to go see these particular sites, but to get out and to meet people. And it's kind of reminds me of eBay in a way too, just kind of going and going off on your own into different places. And so, yeah, it's a cool book. It's called Rediscovering Travel, A Guide for the Globally Curious.
Okay. What's one place that you want to go?
Oh, we actually have a trip planned. Over Easter, we are heading to Italy. So.
You and every other person I know in the world. Like all my friends went over the summer, and I'm watching them on Facebook posting. And so are you doing like an organized trip, or are you just kind of figuring out where you want to go?
Oh gosh, no,
it's totally unorganized.
Totally unorganized.
Yeah.
That's the best. It's just you go where you're drawn to, and just oh, I want to see that. Or you're going along on the train and you're like, oh, I want to stop and see that.
Yeah. And we will be doing some thrifting while we are there.
Really?
Oh yeah.
We will try. I've had not very good luck in other countries when I try to thrift, because, for example, we were in a little country called St. Kitts, which is
yes.
Yeah, and so 40,000 people on the island, more monkeys than people actually. And I remember asking the taxi driver, I'm like, so do you have any thrift stores? And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he said, no, he said, we just give it to the younger people to keep using, And so there was no such thing as a thrift store there. But in other countries, I've tried to search them out and no luck.
A little bit different. I remember I studied abroad after my sophomore year of college and went to Denmark for, it was like 2 months or so.
Oh, interesting.
I would find stuff over there, and whichever country we traveled to, and my buddies and I would always make sure to stop by a thrift store and see if I could find anything cool. And nothing sticks out right now, but I do remember finding some stuff and bringing clothing home from there that I bought at thrift stores, and still have some of it to this day. Just
Good
kind of cool brands, but it's a lot of fun going over to different countries because you find things that you would never find here because it's either a small company over in Europe or something different. But
did you ever listen to the Scavenger Life podcast?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they did that a lot, like on purpose, would go over to Europe and I believe some Scandinavian countries, and they would go to these flea markets and bring all this, I don't want to say weird stuff, but unusual, like things you don't see every day in our thrift stores. And they would bring extra luggage to put it all in, and they had a whole plan for that. So that was interesting to listen to when they would.
Yeah, they were great. Yeah, I really enjoyed them.
I still follow their store. They have probably 10,000 items for sale.
Yeah. Yep. I watch them as well. I watch their store, but kind of miss their podcast too.
Yeah. They got into the Airbnb and the coffee shop and all kinds of stuff, but they still do eBay, and they're on like a homestead. So they have unlimited space to store everything. Like, oh, we'll just build a new shed, put more stuff in it, So,
yeah. I don't have that. So
you don't have that?
No, I have one bedroom that's packed, and it's been the eBay room for quite a few years.
Yeah, it's been the eBay room for forever.
Yeah. Well, hey, you got to work with what you have. No problem. So, okay. Well, you guys have just been delightful. It's just, I love your stories, and I'm going to put you on my list to recycle you and have you on again another time to tell more stories.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been really fun to visit with you.
What are y'all up to this afternoon?
I don't know. It's a little too late now we don't have many thrift stores around here. We have to drive quite a ways to find them. So I don't think there's any thrifting.
I'm going to be going to Salvation Army on the way home. But other than that,
How far away do you live?
About 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Grand Rapids is it's a pretty small town. It's, I think, probably, in the wintertime, it's probably 10,000 people. In the summertime, it's probably 40,000 people. So it
So
kind of
your car just automatically goes into the Salvation Army on your way home.
Oh, mine does. Yeah. A couple
Yeah.
times a week. We've got 3 thrift stores in town. So, one every day of the week, and, try to see what the new inventory is, but
That's right. You got to constantly be scoping it out. You don't know what could have been put out 5 minutes ago.
Yep, exactly.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks again for coming on. And I just really enjoyed talking with y'all. Lots of fun,
Yeah.
lots of fun stories with the mom and son team.
Well, you can tell we don't get to talk to a lot of people about it. We're pretty pumped up and excited. I mean, we love doing it. If I could do it full time, I'd do it full time in a second.
I know, but I said, you just paid for a degree in engineering. You're going to stick with your job. You're not.
Yeah.
It's
I
too
mean,
fun.
you can work it in on the side, but
Oh yeah.
it's eBay's just not predictable, and I sure wouldn't, rely on it for 100% of my income.
Oh yeah.
No.
Unless I was like the scavengers, Jay and Ryan, that have 10,000 things, then maybe. But
Yeah.
But wow, what a side gig though, really.
I know.
It's-
And they're like, hey, nothing expires. We just keep it and keep going. So something to think about. Okay. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, on to today's trivia question. It is about the great state of Minnesota. What is the population of the entire state? Here are a few seconds to think about it. Okay, there are 5.7 million people in the 87,000 square miles of Minnesota, so that's about 71 people per square mile if you divide it out. So I compare that to Metro Atlanta, which has 6 million people crammed into 134 square miles, or about 185 people per square mile. So Minnesota has some beautiful country and wide open spaces, and I love that. Okay, next week I have another eBay selling team, Joyce and Leanne in Texas. I love how eBay can be a family affair even across the generations. I am wishing all of you a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. We have so much to be grateful for and so much to look forward to in the coming year. I'll see you back next week, the first week in 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye for now.